Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another AWS On Air. My name's Aaron Hunter. I'm a senior technical trainer with AWS Training and Certification. And today we are going to talk about Amazon Glue and Amazon SageMaker Feature Store. With me, we have my colleague guest, my one of my good friends here, Seema. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good. Thanks, Aaron. I'm Seema Ramdev. I'm part of Alexa team at Amazon, and I'm really excited to hear about Amazon Glue. There've been a lot of talks around, and yeah, let's see what we have today.
Oh my gosh. How many times do you think you just triggered all the different devices? My Echo device over here almost went off when you said what team you work for.
Almost every day, and I just lost the count, like how many times in a day.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I'm really looking forward to talking about Glue, one of our services for extract, transform, and load type jobs. Really great for data analytics. And also Amazon SageMaker, a machine learning service focusing around, or today, around feature store. So one of the features about features. What's the most what's the service or feature that you're most excited about between Glue and Feature Store?
Well, I'm excited about equally about both the services. They're two different things. So yeah, uh, I think I want to hear more and then tell my favorite.
Awesome. Yeah. So we have Roman and Frank. So Roman is going to come and talk about Amazon Glue. He's going to do some demos. We're really going to be able to see that. He's a software development manager for AWS Glue streaming specifically. And then Frank from AWS Feature Store is going to talk about the different platforms that we can use these services on. He's one of our principal technical product managers. Awesome. With us here today, we have our ASL interpreters. We have Brian on the screen. Hey, Brian, how's it going? Good to have you here. And we also have Stephanie. We'll see Stephanie later on today. Now, don't forget, we do want to hear from you. So please take 5 minutes after the show to fill out a survey. The first 50 respondents get a $10 AWS credit. And we'll go ahead and throw that link in the chat for you so that way you can click on it. But hey, Seema, should we go ahead and bring up our very first guest here?
Absolutely. Let's get
Okay.
started.
Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back. Roman, how's it going, my friend? Good to have you here.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. Hey, AWS Glue is an amazing service. Can you tell us more about what you're here? It's Glue streaming.
So I'm here to share with you my real excitement and share the launch of two great features that our customers have been eagerly waiting for. First is the launch of smaller instances to handle low volume and simple ETL streaming workloads at one quarter of the cost. And second, the launch of auto scaling for streaming workloads, which gives streaming jobs ability to scale up and down based on the load on the streaming source. Scale the resource down when there is a reduced load or no load at all, and scale back up when there is new data or the volume increases. And by that, reduce overall cost of streaming workloads and pass the savings back to the customers.
That's really cool. So it really helps the customers. What is it? We have the well-architected framework, and cost optimization is one of those pillars. So it helps them align to the cost optimization to help them save. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Yes.
So Glue is our ETL or elastic or extract, transform, and load service, and it really helps to make it easy to set up continuous ingestion pipelines. Is that correct?
Correct. Customers use streaming ETL to process streaming data from different sources such as IoT event stream, click stream, change data capture, which is also known as CDC stream, network, and security events that require streaming ETL jobs to always be running with resource provisioned to handle peak time loads. And this over time can make streaming ETL pretty expensive, especially for customers with low or sporadic streaming loads. One of our financial companies needed to process large real-time stream of complex events to identify fraudulent logins to their website and block those as fast as possible. To do this, customer used AWS Glue Streaming ETL, which handled the case very well. However, over time, they observed that event volume outside of business hours was significantly lower than the volume throughout the day. That resulted in additional cost for over-provisioned resources for half of the time. Customer wanted us to provide optimization for streaming workloads such that resources can scale down when stream volume is low and data can be handled by smaller amount of resources to reduce cost of those always running workloads. And with the launch of auto scaling and smaller instance type for streaming ETL, customers can now run streaming jobs at one quarter of the cost. And with auto scaling enabled, job resources will now automatically scale down when there is no data to process. And as I said, will scale up with new data arriving, passing significant costs back to the customer.
That's really awesome to be able to pass that significant cost back to the customer and also at the same time help them reduce latency between maybe the time events are ready for processing and the time the data is ready itself too. So glue streaming sounds really powerful.
Absolutely. Let me tell you a bit about the Glue and Glue streaming. And I don't know if the audience know, but AWS Glue is a serverless data integration service that makes it easy to discover, prepare, and combine data for analytics and machine learnings. Now, Glue streaming, in turn, is a feature of Glue. It focuses on streaming sources and makes it easy to continuously ingest or create continuous pipelines that prepare streaming data on the fly and make it available for analysis and machine learning within seconds. Streaming jobs can consume data from various sources such as Amazon Kinesis, Managed Kafka, MSK, Apache Kafka, Confluent Kafka, and prepare the data on the fly and continuously load the data to data lakes on S3 or data warehouses or any other target storage. What's special about Glue streaming is that it reduces the latency between the time events are ready for processing and the time the data is ready for analysis and machine learning, allowing customers to act and make decisions at near real-time speed. Additionally, Glue streaming provides ability to process complex events by looking at group of events over consecutive timeframes instead of just looking at single occurrence of an event. And Glue streaming can help with this type of use cases. And as I mentioned previously, large fintech company uses Glue streaming to process web logs to detect fraudulent activity and react quickly to block malicious users as soon as possible. This use case is not suitable for batch processing mode, where there are much larger delays between the time the data is collected for processing and the time the data is available for decision making.
That's really awesome. Thank you so much for walking us through that and the differences between Glue and specifically Glue streaming. We have actually a question in the chat. Let me see if I can get that pulled up here. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. So, what is that? Babiera SA. Let me go ahead and pull this up. How can Glue connect to external data sources like an on-prem Kafka stream? Are you able to talk about that?
Absolutely, and that's a great question, and that's one of very popular connectors, and many of our customers utilize that connector. So Glue, and that's something I wanted to speak in a minute, since Glue development ecosystem provides a variety of connectors. And specifically, we've invested a lot in developing specifically Kafka connector and many of its features, since it's such a popular streaming platform. So creating a connection to a Kafka on-prem is pretty straightforward. Of course, you need to define the VPN, but through Glue Studio, you can easily navigate through a few clicks and create that connection to your Kafka on-prem with many authentication possibilities, such as SSL certificates and client authentication. Recently, we even launched support for SASL and Scrum support for Kafka authentication. I hope that answers your question.
That's really cool. Yeah, thank you. Let us know in the chat if he answered your question. Really do appreciate all the questions. We also have subject matter experts or SMEs that are here to help as well. So type your questions in the chat. We are watching them. Let's go ahead and move on. So when would customers use Glue streaming? We talked about that just now, but what are some use cases for them?
So sure, let me expand on that. So the main reason customers choose Glue Streaming is, or the Glue platform is the development and operational ecosystem Glue provides to engineers and data scientists to build, test, run, and operate their ETL workloads. Glue offers integration with variety of connectors, just like I mentioned, uh, and to different data sources. Engineers can use Glue to handle different data processing models, batch, streaming, complex event processing, without them having to learn new technology. This allows them to centralize all their ETL jobs in one place. Uh, with Glue, I'm sorry, so with Glue development tools such as Glue Studio, customers can easily develop ETL workloads visually with minimum to no coding. And with Glue interactive sessions, customers can interactively develop and test their workloads. And lastly, they prefer AWS Glue Streaming because they need to have heavy duty processing of complex ETL, such as joining multiple streaming and static sources, apply complex transformations and aggregation logic on time series event to act on a group of events over periods of time. And I think those are all great things that brings customers to use Glue and the Glue development framework to develop their ETL needs.
That's really cool.
Really.
I love the ability that we are giving our customers to use this service to expedite their workloads, to do more for their customers, to help create and innovate on their own while simplifying the entire process because it's one of those managed services for them. So awesome. Thanks for being here. I think Sima was going to ask a question.
Yeah, so after hearing all of this, I'm curious to know if there are more features that are launching with this Amazon Clue.
We're launching new features all the time. The best place to track new feature announcements is, of course, the AWS What's New announcements. Uh, so, interactive sessions is a recent feature that customers heavily adopted. We heavily investing in Glue Studio development to improve the user experience and reduce the barrier for non-engineers for adoption so that data scientists, data analysts can easily create and develop their ETL workloads and have one place for all their ETL needs.
That is really cool. And you know what? I see one more person in the chat here. Lucy from LinkedIn is asking for a demo. Demo is being beckoned. Do you have anything for us today?
Absolutely. And
All right.
I actually prepared a demo that I will demonstrate a very simplified use case to demonstrate how easy it is to develop a streaming ETL, and as well how can you utilize the new features that we've just released. So give me 1 second. I'll take a sip of water.
Take your time. In the
I'm
meantime, if you have any
doing a lot of
questions
talking
or
today.
if anyone has questions, type them in the chat. We do have people who are watching. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and type in the chat as well. Let me do that. Give me a second here. I'm going to pull my own question, my own thing up. It's demo time, everyone. Let's go.
All right. So let's imagine we have a retail store that wants to stream their orders to data lake for analytics, machine learning, and so on. But at the same time, they want to flag specific orders that are above specific threshold. For example, above specific purchase amount to flag them for review or for fraud analysis. So let's develop that ETL script. So for that, by the way, my screen is visible, I presume. Just need an acknowledgement. Thank you.
I can see it, but you know what? Let's see if everyone else can see it. If you can see Roman's screen, go ahead and type your favorite emoji in the chat. Let's see who's out there. Do it, everyone. Do it. Favorite emojis, thumbs up, thumbs down. Maybe a laughing person, an animal. I don't know, a tiger, a cat, a dog. Dancing fries?
That's
There,
amazing.
here they come. I see them all. Okay, we're getting confirmation. Our viewers can see your screen. Let's go.
Perfect. So let's get going. So we'll start with a blank canvas. There are many options here that you can choose. You can choose a pre-populated default script, but for this purpose, or you can even use Jupyter Notebook, as I've mentioned, for interactive development. But for this demo, we'll use a blank canvas. So we have our canvas here. It's blank, as I said. And of course, we're going to start with the source. As a question that was brought up earlier, can we connect to Kafka? As you can see, we have many connectors here that you can choose and use out of the box without any additional configuration. For this demo, we're going to use Amazon Kinesis. And it is, most of the data is pre-populated here. So I'm going to choose a stream that I've pre-created ahead of time. And that's our Kinesis stream, where we'll be streaming our orders data. And the format is going to be JSON. And I definitely want to start from the earliest message in the stream. There are various options. You can also start from the latest, but to keep things simple, we will use the earliest. Also, I would like to change my micro batch processing mode to 30 seconds instead of 100 seconds. And customers can change it the way they like it. What it means is that the streaming job will trigger micro batch processing every 30 seconds and push the data to our data lake at that frequency. It's also worth mentioning, so we have our source, that streaming ETL can automatically detect the schema of the payload that is coming from the streaming source. We've just mentioned the data format, but streaming workload will automatically detect the payload and will construct a data frame, which, in other words, is a representation of a table that consists of columns and rows on which we can operate, create transformations, and so on. So let's add a transformation. As you can see, there are many available out-of-the-box transformation that you can use, such as drop fields, validate fields, nullify fields. But for this demo, we're going to use a very popular transformation, which is a SQL transformation that allows us to write SQL transformations. And what's better than SQL for data scientists? So we're going to change the query, and I actually prepared that query ahead of time. It's going to be a very simple query. So we're going to change it, and we just do the following. So we're going to select all the data that's coming through the stream, but we're also going to enhance the data by adding another field called flagged order. And that has a very simple condition. When the amount on the order is higher than 900, let's put the value of 1, denotes a flag that this order needs to be reviewed, and otherwise 0. Now, it's worth mentioning it's a very simple transformation here, but customers can apply much more complex transformation. For example, another popular transformation is, for example, if you have IP addresses on the source that is very used for orders or for security and network events, you can actually join the data with geolocation data that will actually give you the location of the place or the source that data is arriving from, and again, for analytical purposes and so on. So we added our transformation. So what's remaining is that let's add a target. And as I've mentioned, our target is going to be an S3, also in JSON format. So we're going to choose one of my buckets, and we're going to create a folder. Let's call it orders for review. And I'm also going to choose to create a table in data catalog and update the schema and add partitions. What that actually tells the ETL process is actually register a table in Glue catalog, register its schema, so that this folder that we're creating in data lake on S3 can be queried through the Athena engine and treated as an SQL table. So I'll pick a database and let's give it a name, orders for review. And that's practically completes the design of our ETL. So what's remaining is, let's give it a name. Let's call it orders for review. I'll need to choose a role to run this ETL. It already identified this job type to be as Spark Streaming, since we've chosen a source, streaming source, Kinesis. And now I'm coming to the most interesting part here. Before the announcements we made, the new features we released, you had to choose G1X. That was the minimal instance type or resource that you can use for that. But as I've mentioned, I know that since I'm a retail store, my streaming patterns are very different, right? Usually I see a lot of orders throughout morning before people hit the work. Then there is a slowdown over the business hours. And there is a large volume, increase in volume in the evening. And again, over the night is pretty slow. So that's a great use case for the G2X GPU that is at reduced capacity. And all I need to enable auto scaling is just check that check mark, and auto scaling will be automatically enabled for you. Now let's assume that I have very busy days, and since my streaming job is going to be running continuously for days and days, and by the way, we have customers that running streaming workloads for over a year without interruption. So I need to be prepared to handle peak load times. And we've computed, and I will not get into that, that's probably worth another talk, how we size the maximum resource required for streaming workloads at some other time. But let's assume I need 20 workers at the peak time. And that's what I'm going to choose. Now, with auto scaling enabled, I don't need to worry that I have maximum compute power allocated 24/7. Streaming job will automatically scale up and down based on the load on the streaming source. So that's that. Let's save the job and try to run it. And if everything goes well, the job should run. So let's switch to the run view. And for now, it shows that it's running. Let me quickly walk you through the job run view. So there are a few parameters that you can see here, such as job name, a job run ID that is generated that will switch to in a minute to show some metrics, job status, the Glue version that is being used. You can see the start time and startup time, for example. The interesting part to pay attention to is that you can see we're using the worker type that is G2X. We have maximum workers as allocated 20, and the maximum capacity is 5 DPUs. Now, DPU, what we call it, is data processing unit. It's amount of compute power and memory designated for this ETL. You can
Yeah,
also
are we
see,
able to maybe compare the savings? Because we do want to hear everything you have to say. We have a couple of questions we also want to get to from the chat, but how can we compare the savings and how much you were able to save by using Glue Streaming with
uh,
this maybe even like a quarter DPU?
can I get to that in a minute, because I'm almost wrapping up,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
please keep me honest. If we're out of time, then I can switch to that. So now that our job is running, we let's put some data into our stream. And one of the great tools that we're using to simulate streaming loads is Amazon Kinesis data generator that allows us to create a different templates to simulate customer payloads, or even for developers, they can simulate different payloads and test their streaming ETLs. So let me log in here. And as you can see, I can pre-select my region and my stream. I can also create a template. So for this demonstration, I create a very simple template that consists of order ID, IP, product, and some other fields. And I can now just start sending data. And that will actually test my streaming ETL workload. So while we're streaming data, let's go back to Studio. And once you click on the job ID, you also have the metrics panel that has some key metrics for you to track. Now, since for this job to get the metrics populated, it's going to take some time. So that's why I pre-run another job ahead of time, and I'll show you some of the metrics on that job. So here you see metrics for a job that I on purpose run for a day to for this use case specifically. And one of the key elements here that you can see is the ETL data movement in bytes or in sites. And you can see this ETL is pretty sporadic, right? You have a very massive spike over here around 200 megabytes a second, then you have a quiet time, and again, a spike. So this is a really good candidate for both auto scaling and smaller instance types. So looking at other metrics that you see here, for example, shuffle across executors. That's a very important metric to gauge performance and scalability of ETL workloads. And
All right,
we
that's
have
really, really cool. It is. And I know Glue Streaming ETL just came out on July 19th, so just a few days ago. And then we also have Glue now supports smaller instance types. And you did a really good job demonstrating both of that for us today. But we do have to move on. And I'm sorry for cutting you off here, but thank you so much for the demo. Thank you so much. And
2 minutes
everyone
to
who's
summarize.
tuning in, everyone
Uh,
who's tuning in, thank you for being here. We have Amazon SageMaker feature store coming up right next. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you. Thanks, Roman. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and continue on. So today we have Frank. Frank, you're going to talk to us about Amazon SageMaker Feature Store. That's such a cool service. Amazon SageMaker is one of our machine learning services, does wonderful things for our customers to help simplify the machine learning process for their workloads, to help train models, and also get more information out of their data. Can you tell us more about Feature Store today?
Sure, happy to be here. Yeah, SageMaker's got a lot of great about training, inference, notebooks, feature the data side of things. And the reason challenges are a key stumbling block for data scientists sort of put their machine learning into production. So we've all heard about, the challenge like building models for image recognition, natural language processing, and that's all. But what's also important, data. How do you manage featured organization that has potentially dozens? So that's what Feature Store is about: to store, to share, and to manage.
And it sounds like, Frank, maybe there's a little bit of audio jitter on your end. Do me a favor and just maybe leave the studio and come right back, and then maybe that'll help a little bit. And for everyone who's here, don't forget we do have a survey, and the first 50 respondents are going to get a $10 AWS credit. So we'll drop that link in the chat for each of you while Frank is leaving and coming right back to hopefully fix those audio issues. And we do see your questions. Yeah, I heard static too. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. Thank you so much for calling that out for everyone. Yeah, sound is at 0.75% speed. Oh man, it's amazing to see and hear all the feedback from everyone. So thank you for letting us know. And hello, everyone. So hello, tell us where you're from. I'm from Frisco, Texas. And Seema, where are you from? I actually don't even know.
Oh, I am from New Delhi, India.
New Delhi. What time is it in New Delhi? It's 2:30 in Frisco, Texas for me.
Oh, it's a lovely time. It's just 1 a.m.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. Oh, middle of the night for you. Let us know what time it is where you're joining us from today. Really interested to hear from you. In the meantime, Frank is going to walk us through Feature Store. It's one of the new features. Well, it's been around for a couple of years. So Feature Store was first launched at reInvent 2020, and that made it a lot easier for customers to discover, manage, and even monitor their machine learning features, including certain things like metadata and search or discover, and the ability to add new features to feature groups or manage. And then new operational metrics and to help monitor. So there's a couple more things here, like one or more key messages that we really want to get across to you, such as data challenges and how those data challenges are a key stumbling block for customers. Now, Frank's back. Welcome back, Frank. Really great to see you back here. So we were just introducing Amazon SageMaker and Feature Store and how it came out in 2020. But you're here to tell us about the new features of Feature Store. Features about Feature Store. What are those?
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Can you hear me now? How's my
I
audio?
can. It's you know
Okay.
what? It's good to me, but we got some feedback. That one person said sounds like your audio is 0.75x speed.
Oh,
Everyone else, let us know in the chat. Is Frank's audio better? Is it thumbs up if it's better?
yeah.
But
It could be
sounds good.
because I talk slowly. I don't know.
Mike,
That's why I was thinking about
Mike
0.75.
sounds better. On fire now. All right, cool. Sounds fine.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the feedback, everyone. Frank, welcome back.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Um, so yeah, you mentioned that this product launched at reInvent in 2020. It's been out there for a while. I wanted to mention what a couple of our customers are using Feature Store for. And one great example is Fidelity. And Fidelity is a partner who actually launched with us at reInvent, and they're using Feature Store for their call center customer experience. So they run models like sentiment analysis, next best action for customers who are calling into their call center. And another good example is a global transportation company that uses Feature Store for their travel ready center. So this includes things like COVID documents, which varies by country, as well as personalization at check-in. And one other that I'd like to mention is a European-based retailer that uses SageMaker Feature Store as part of their fraud detection for payments. So you can imagine that this is a case in which low latency is super important because the Feature Store is actually in the transaction path. So that means that latency must be very low and throughput must be very high, because this is an example of a customer that has hundreds of thousands of customers. You know.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I understand there might be some new capabilities and features added to Feature Store. So, what might be some of those new capabilities that have been recently added?
Right. Yes. So there's three new ones that I wanted to mention. And we're very excited about these because they're like really key additions to the Feature Store capability. So one is in the area of feature metadata and search. So it's about discoverability and reuse of features. And the way that we achieve that is we've added metadata to features at the feature level, which allows data scientists and data engineers to search at a more granular level for data for features that are relevant to them. In the past, we've had search type capability more at the group level, like groups of features, but Feature Store currently is now supporting, after this new launch, search at the feature level. And the value here is that it helps data scientists learn what features are available in their organization, and to get access to them directly, right? So they don't need to like go to the water cooler or Slack their colleagues to find out the things. In
But
fact, we
but
have
I
a
like
media.
water cooler talk, Frank, and I like slacking my
Right,
emoji, my friends, random
right.
emojis all over the place. You mean I don't have
Well,
to do this by using Feature Store now?
well, yeah. I actually just went to the coffee room here in the office, and I was the only one there, so I didn't have anybody to talk to.
Okay.
But the reason this is important is that organizations are large. So different lines of business want to use features, but they don't want to reinvent them. They want to discover what's there so that they can reuse them. So
Ah,
that's
that's
one
the
of the
main importance of
capabilities.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So the second area is in the area of feature management. So although a feature store, you hear the word store and you think it's a repository, it's actually a platform that supports management of features. So we've introduced the ability to change the schema, change the format of feature groups, and in order to add new features to them. So this can save a data scientist from creating creating new feature groups, new groups of features, and all the pipelines associated with that. If they want something that's sort of similar, right? So often machine learning models can evolve over time. You want to add new features to them because you think something new that come along, new data you have, which is predictive. Or it could be that different lines of business need features that are slightly different, right? So we've introduced this ability to add more features within a feature group. And then the third thing very quickly is around monitoring. So a key thing around feature stores is the ability to monitor. So we've added additional monitoring metrics, including things like number of API requests, number of errors, if your requests have been throttled, latencies around the service actually operating on the features, right? So those are all logged to Amazon CloudWatch. So folks may have heard of Amazon CloudWatch. It's really great AWS capability. You can create custom dashboards with that, do reporting, set alarms, respond, take actions based on those alarms. So I guess the general value in this operational area is it gives you a unified view of the feature store, so you can keep track of operational health and make sure your applications, your machine learning applications, are running smoothly.
That's really cool. And we have the audience here. They're asking questions, and one stands out to me. Let's go ahead and bring that up on the screen here. Can you show a demo for us? Do you have anything ready?
Right. Yes, I would be happy to show a demo.
Okay, let me know
So
when
if
you're
you
ready
can,
to share your screen, because I think you had to leave and come back. So once you're ready, I will go ahead and add that up. Are you ready now?
I'm ready now. Please go ahead.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go ahead and do that demo.
Oh,
Thank you.
great. Thanks very much. So just to give people a kind of a visual of how it works around Feature Store. So there's people often have streaming data sources as well as batch data sources that come into Feature Store. Another component is a catalog, and this is what allows you to search features. And then what do you want to do with those features? Do you want to do inference? Some people call that prediction. And you also want to train models. So that's a key point around Feature Store, is that they have this online capability associated with the real time, as well as a training capability. Some people call that this bottom box as an offline store. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a demo. So we're going to use an online retail example here. So imagine we have customers, we have products in our online retail store, and then we have transactions that come in. So these are grocery orders, right? So the way that we're going to do this demo is we're going to partly use a notebook, a SageMaker notebook, and then we're also going to look at a Studio UI, which is a UI kind of view of Feature Store. So we'll go back and start with the notebook. So we have 100,000 grocery orders for our customers. I'm going to do some setup here just to get my notebook running. So the first thing that I want to do as part of my notebook is I want to load data sets, right? So I could stream these in, I could batch these in. I'm going to load them in this case, from a CSV file. And this is a snapshot of what my customer data looks like, for example. So I have a customer ID. I've got various attributes of that customer. Are they married or not? Event time is an important one. So this is what is this record valid as of? And then other data associated with them, age, how active they've been with
Yeah, and I
me,
see
and so
under age, only one of those values is entered. So you're actually kind of narrowing it down a little bit as well.
right. So this is an age range. And what we've done is we've bucketed people into an age range. So this is something often data scientists will do, because you don't care whether somebody necessarily is 37 or 38. That may not make a difference for you. So if we can create categorical variables with buckets, then that's sufficient predictive power for our models.
Awesome. Thank
Um,
you.
you're welcome. So we've got our customer data there. We can also look at products. So we're going to load in products data. And you can see here we have, in this case, categorized our products into baby formula, baking, food related. And these have, obviously each of these features has a type. It's either a string, it's a numeric type. And then let's add in our orders now. Okay, so we've loaded our data, but what we need to do now is create a feature group. And a feature group then is something that we're going to have in our feature store that's going to enable us to do our machine learning operations, right? So I'm going to create a feature group here, and I'll skip down a couple of cells here to the create part, right? So I'll make this a little bit bigger here, so hopefully we can see. Key things about create are, you want to specify obviously what field represents your customer ID. You want to also specify something. You want to specify whether your feature group is both online or offline, right? Are you going to use it for real-time stuff? Are you going to use it for batch offline stuff, right? So we create feature groups for each of those cases. Each of those data sets are customers, our products, and our transactions, the actual grocery orders. Okay, so we'll look at the UI and see that those have been created in a moment, but we've created the definition. Now we want to load data into the feature groups, right? So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to use the SDK. So this is the software development kit, which has a method called ingest. And what I'm doing is I'm ingesting data from my data set into the, still working on actually creating the last feature group. So I'm just waiting a second for that.
So we're taking
and
this
once
data and we're creating features in the feature group within feature store. It's like featureception.
that's correct. So we're taking, we're doing a definition, and now we're
Okay.
loading data. So you can see
Okay.
we're ingesting data into the feature group, right?
Got
And
it.
this takes a few seconds. So now this is when you're actually either loading data. It could be streaming data in, or you could be loading in batch
Got it. It
fashion.
looks like it's done now. It tells you about how long it took and the overall CPU
Right.
time and everything too. So you can look into that through CloudWatch metrics, I imagine.
You can, yeah.
Okay.
And here we're looking at an example of, here's a particular customer, C3074, and this is what their, so this is what their, the record looks like in feature store. Right, so we can go to the UI now and see the feature groups that we just created. If I zoom out here a second, you can see 1 or 2 minutes ago, we created these new feature groups, including the customer one that we just talked about, right? So these are the characteristics of that feature group. right? So we've created those. I want to get to the new capabilities briefly that we've added. And the first one is around adding metadata in, right? So metadata, if you recall, is helping us in this area of discovery and reuse, right? So you can see that I don't have any description or parameters associated with this. So the data scientists who created this, for whatever reason, they haven't annotated that, right? But now we can go back into we could do this both from the UI as well as from a notebook. So I'm going to do it from a notebook. And after my setup here, I'm going to add descriptions and metadata, right? So the idea behind the metadata, just to give a visual view of it here, is you can imagine we have this group, this group with all kinds of different features within it, right? And within the features, if we can define descriptions and key value pairs, like kind of tags, then that makes it discoverable, right? So we're going to do that through the SDK right now. So what I'm doing is I'm going to add to the is married feature a description, and this can be something that's relevant to my enterprise, to my organization. And I'm going to also add a parameter to that feature, and the parameter I care about is which team created it, right? So I zoom in here. Which team created this, which is the MLOps team, and the organization they're in, which is a customer product team, right? So this update feature metadata is a new capability within Feature Store that was just launched. So we'll go in there and we will add that, right?
Yeah, and that's adding support for search as well. Is that right? So updating feature for metadata and search.
Correct, right. So now if we go back into our Feature Store here, you can see within is married here, we have these additional descriptions, right? So we have a description as well as these parameters. And I could also have done it from within the UI for folks who are more interested in using the UI as opposed to doing it programmatically. So I can set an additional parameter value here that I care about and then save that. So Aaron, you mentioned the search and discovery.
Yeah.
So if I go back to exploring features and I want to search on the is married, or I can do the search on is married.
Because we set all of that within the data that we had. So we were able to create these data sets and then kind of create features from the data sets. So now we can use feature stores, metadata, and search to be able to dig deeper and dive deeper into our own data.
That's right. That's right. Because often if you have a data which just has a type associated with it, that's only a limited view of what it does, right? So one of the customers that we work with is in media. They have a team in London, they have a team in San Francisco, and they use these key value pairs and these parameters as a way of adding annotations to their features, right? And so it's partly product and it's partly process around how you use those, how you define them as, ready for production, or this is a test feature, or what have you. But this capability allows for organizations to implement the processes they need to manage their features.
That's really cool. And you mentioned media and entertainment. I imagine there's probably like financial services, retail, transportation, entertainment, government, a whole lot of other verticals
Yes.
that may be able to take advantage of this feature store from Amazon SageMaker.
Yeah, indeed. I think like many AWS customers, we have like a wide variety of verticals, including the ones mentioned. And I think feature stores for any customers who are looking at operationalizing their data, who are looking to actually move from having data scientists somewhat kind of off to the side and incorporating them all into machine learning operations as part of their business. Feature stores are becoming more and more important in that area. I wanted to show quickly one last thing, because another thing we mentioned that I mentioned earlier was around adding new features, so evolving schemas. So for example, we just created this feature group, as I mentioned before. I may want to say, I'm evolving my model and I'm interested in adding a feature around whether this customer has children or not. So if they have children, that can be predictive for my model. And I don't want to delete this feature group and recreate it. So I'm going to add a feature definition here, which is, has kids. So I'll add that. And I'll make it an integer. So now this feature group then, just update that. You can see that it has a new feature called has kids. Now, one key thing to understand here is that this doesn't break downstream models that are using this feature group, right? So if you have existing models and you add something to it, it doesn't break them. But what it allows is models downstream that want to consume this feature to be able to do it. So it's a non-breaking change to a feature group.
And that's really cool. So you did a really awesome demo here, and there's a whole lot of stuff to unpack. If anyone here is watching this, you can catch it on demand as well. We'll make sure that link is in the chat. And Frank, is there anywhere where anyone can go to maybe learn more about Amazon SageMaker Feature Store?
Indeed. So a couple of places I would suggest is to go to the product pages on AWS. There's a lot of really great information on what Feature Store is. And we also have workshops with full Jupyter notebooks, similar to the ones that I showed here, for getting started. So that walks you through the kind of A to Z of machine learning with feature groups in the mix and feature stores in the mix. So those are two
Awesome.
good places.
That's perfect. Appreciate that. And I think we have time for maybe one question. I see a question in the chat from Aditya. How would you add governance and control around Feature Store? For example, if there's a report that can be generated on a scheduled basis to review the validity of the features published in the Feature Store. And because it's covering your face, I'm going to go ahead and drop that question off the screen here, and let's bring you back up.
Yeah. So yes, governance is a very important aspect of the features and feature management. So the AWS supports fine-grained access control for features. So what that means is that one could set permissions to allow certain individuals to only see certain data. They could see only certain feature groups. They could see only certain features within those feature groups, and also only certain rows or certain records within a feature group. So
You can get pretty
fine-grained access.
granular.
Yeah, so fine-grained access control is an important aspect here of feature management as it is for all of data management. It's a key thing for AWS customers. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Frank, thank you so much for being here. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it from all of us at the On Air team. Stephanie and Brian, thanks for interpreting for us. Appreciate it. And Seema, and this has been wonderful. Thank you for everyone. Until next time, we will see you on our next On Air show. Let me go ahead and let's see if I can get this out. All right, everyone, take care.